It's time now for the KC Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. And now, here's KC Ingram.
Good morning. Welcome back to pre-recording the second half of this show today, the KC Ingram Show. And I have Corey Crowley here next to me in my office, coming to you from the Martin County Fairgrounds, where all kinds of good things are happening. Remember that Martin County Fair is February 9 through 17, 2024. But if you have any events that you want to have, Martin County Fairgrounds is a great place to have corporate events, to have birthday parties. We have tons of space. We're extremely reasonable, including some air-conditioned and climate-controlled spaces. So inside, outside, give us a call here at the Martin County Fair, 220-3437, and we'll see if we can hook you up with some great space and have some fun events. Also, I want to thank Indiantown Marina. Folks, I can't stress enough, if you have a boat, reserve your hurricane safe harborage today. Once the storm is named and on its way, it'll be too late. Indiantown Marina is, in my opinion, the safest place to keep your boat because it is the one marina that is located inland on the Okeechobee Waterway out at Indiantown Marina. They can keep you high and dry and keep your boat safe. So make sure you give the good folks at Indiantown Marina a call today. Can't stress enough, we're in the middle of hurricane season. The water's really warm this year, and it's a little frightening about how strong the hurricanes could be. So good time to get out there. So I want to turn now to Salerno Development Authority, Corey Crowley. A lot of things are going on here in Port Salerno and a lot of social media action, and we hear a lot about Corey Crowley here lately. I had Casey Cass on the radio show last week. I appreciate you coming in this week so we can hear your side of it and what your vision is for Port Salerno. So tell me a little bit about yourself, why Port Salerno, and why the vision you have.
So it isn't really my vision, I'll be honest with you. It's the county's vision. So when you read the CRA plan and you read the new innovation hub that George Stokas has put forward, this goes back to the year 2000. It's been revised several times. So I was reading the plan, and there's a lot to it. And when you read it, you realize that's quite an extraordinary plan. And then you start, this is how the process works. You come next to the water because you like it. You have a drink and you enjoy your time. And then you say, oh, this is a nice neighborhood. And you see some empty land. And at the time, 10 years ago, you could buy houses for, I paid as little as $3,000 for some trailers in that neighborhood. It was a very different time. And we all remember sure 2011, 2012. And
yes.
So I started buying properties during that time. I read the plan and then kind of went on my way and just said, okay, well, it's kind of like when you are driving a car and you see a problem on the highway or in a hospital. You see problems, but you just don't feel like you get engaged, right? You're like, oh, do I really want to, fix the customs line at the airport, or do I really want to fix these types of things? And so it takes a lot of, for any of us who's ever become engaged, it takes a lot.
So tell me, let me go back just a little bit more because I want to know Corey Crowley.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So why Port Salerno? I think you're from Jupiter, am I right, or Miami?
I'm a Florida boy. That's what people. I've grown up being. I call it Northern incursion, and I don't mean to upset the Northerners. I think that they understand the point. It's not a disparaging remark. But let me give you an example. So when you buy houses that are built in the 50s or 60s, the doors open in.
Right.
Why? Because of the snow in the north, and they come down here and they bring their house, and then they say, okay, and then in Florida we need the door to open out because of the hurricane.
Correct.
They build the roofs to slope for snow. All the things that they brought with their ideas, and they bring their culture and they bring their interest. We eat a lot of salmon, for example, or we eat a lot of cod, but we don't eat kingfish or mackerel, the things that we catch here locally.
Right.
And the restaurants who try to do it, they don't have any success because the palate's different. And they want the blue crabs and the snow crabs and things like that. So that's what has happened in Florida, and that's a kind of what. So when you talk about me, so I grew up in Lake Worth, and I went to the University of Florida. So I'm a Florida boy. I understand all these problems, and I get cast as this developer person. But I've been fortunate, and I was able to buy some properties, and I have a vision. but I'm not a proper developer. I'm not Modica or Huizenga or these types of things that the people think of.
Well, that's what made me curious. And if you can show, I've got a couple of your photos that you had sent in. The grouper photo, one on grouper, and then there's a couple others too.
So that's Cartagena. So in Colombia, I go there often. I love it. I recommend anybody to go to Cartagena.
Iggy's showing those on Facebook Live. There's some photos. One of the things that you had wanted to promise was a rooftop bar.
Yeah.
And the first level is going to be retail. Second level is apartments.
Yeah.
Of some sort, and then a rooftop bar.
Yeah.
That's your vision.
For the corner of Grouper and Salerno.
Okay.
But none of this I own a good portion down Salerno Road with other properties. This conversation is just about the commerce lot, across from the seafood companies and so forth. But yeah, those plans are part of building. I build them lofts. So for example, like we build. The only way to make housing affordable in any city anywhere is make things smaller. Mm-hmm. And so from the builder's perspective, you can have more density. You can have more people living in a spot. That's a cycle, though. You have more density, you have more cars, you have more people. But if you get to a certain point, you have walkability. South Beach is a great example. Most of Europe is a great example. Now, I'm not saying that we're going to go from, two F-250s that are lifted that need, 2 spaces to trains and buses. I'm not opposed. I'm not saying that at all. But I'm saying that we have an affordability crisis in Florida for the first time in my life ever. And the only way to solve the problem is through nice places that people can live that are close enough, whether they can have lower expenses. That's kind of the solution.
They definitely could. And I was just...
my point is those are going to be built, but that's not part of this conversation.
Well, I think it is, because the people in Port Salerno, right, this isn't exactly rooftop bars. They're not exactly maybe what they want. My question to you is, for example, for that property, if you have retail on the bottom and you've got the bar up top, would you want to live in the middle with all that noise?
Of course. Cartagena is a great example. Yeah. Okay. Not only do people want to live there, but they want to travel there and they want to go there and so forth. And that's the cycle of the problem, because the residents are like cars, traffic, and I understand that. But you have to start someplace. We're caught between not being able to afford our lives and not wanting more people to come here to support our lives. And that's the same case across all of Florida.
So Corey, this is where I want to get with you.
Yeah.
Have you developed a property like this, an area like this before?
No, never.
Never. So what made you decide to jump in
and
say, this is what I want to do with Port?
That's what I said.
I'm just curious.
Well, that's what I said about the activation point. You start to care about something, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you just get mad. You're like, you have someone at the hospital and they give them the wrong medication and you become an expert in medication. Maybe you become an activist even. When something really makes you mad and you feel like it's being, you get motivated. And that's anger, I think, a lot of times, or loss is a lot of times the reason for that. And so I came to a CRA meeting in April, and I had 2 little properties. I had my little house, and I had another trailer down the street, and I was like, oh, great, this is going to be fun. Let's see what they're going to be doing. And at the same time, Melry was building a lot of his little blue houses, and I went to the CRA meeting, and I talked to the CRA manager, and I was just very disappointed, and I just had this. I left with this heavy heart that the whole thing was going to be lost. And I just happened to be at a crux of my life. My son had gone to the Marines in February, 2 months before, and I was kind of like planning on just stopping to retire and so forth. But I had this large experience in real estate and as an investor, and I just realized I needed something else to do. And the two things kind of intersected, and I realized, I realized that sometimes there has to be one person that's going to be doing this. And then I decided to be that person. So I just bought everything I could buy, and I created an organization with everything I couldn't buy, all the other builders. And I went to the NAC meetings, and I created a relationship with the commission. I'm known at the staff level. I've done my homework. I've been doing the work every single day. And so I invited everybody and knocked on a lot of doors. That's how I bought a lot of properties. And here we are. And I think the protests and the community being engaged is great. To be honest with you, it's part of the plan.
And I've got some comments here I'll read on Facebook, because you really have engaged the folks like I've never seen before, but it's been it's in a negative way, Corey.
It's not in a negative way. Let me give you an example. My son's on the couch, and he won't get up, and I throw a bucket of water on him. How do you fix apathy? How was I going to fix? I came to the community, and the reason the community was going to be destroyed was because nobody was engaged. You go to the NEC meetings, and there's 3 people. You go to the CRA meetings, and it takes 15 minutes to pass a $5 million budget. There was nobody paying attention. They all loved their community, but they weren't engaged.
What do you mean the community is going to be destroyed because they weren't engaged?
Because of the little homes. What was happening is the property values was going to turn into little blue house, little blue house, little blue house, little blue house. But the county plans are for that area to become a mixed use. We don't want everything to become 3-story apartments everywhere.
Right.
It's easy to criticize my one building, but the reality is it's mixed use. There's things to do. There's a rooftop bar. Oh, rooftop bar in Miami. No, it's Cartagena. It's South America, where every building has a rooftop bar.
But aren't a lot of those areas constrained by parking requirements because there's not parking available?
Here, you need a lot more parking for a restaurant and a mixed use than you do for an apartment, especially in the CRAs. My thing is the people that are upset about this haven't read the rules. The CRA, I only need 1 parking space per apartment. Generally in the county, I need 2. So this whole idea that I'm pushing for parking when I don't need parking, I don't understand it. I want to propose parking so that the other builders can do the right thing. That's the whole point about when I say Port Salerno. When you really read the rules and you understand the inevitability of things, that's what made me get excited and get upset.
So, but you have mentioned parking a lot. I intend to develop into a thriving restaurant destination, 100-fold demand for parking. I see 2 bike lanes where it should have been parking.
Yes.
Secondly, we have lots of needs in Port Salerno, the top 3 being parking, number 1, number 2, parking, number 3, parking. And Corey, the next statement, this has nothing to do with parking, but the solution to all of this is quite simple. Expand the boardwalk, and you're talking about the boardwalk, and leave everything else exactly as it is. There's room to expand the boardwalk from 5 feet to 20 feet towards the shore.
Okay, wait. You're talking about something different. That in that same email, let's not mix 2 things. There's a waterfront issue that I was part of because I own a piece of property on the waterfront. And then there's this parking issue, which is the FEC parking on the west side of the tracks.
Yes.
Okay, so we're talking about the west side of the tracks. So when you talked about the boardwalk and things like that, the boardwalk...
That was in the same email.
Yeah, but it's maybe the same email, but they're not the same issue. So let's talk about parking instead of boardwalks and other things.
Well, the boardwalk's important because I think...
It isn't important.
No, it
Here's
is,
why,
Corey.
because that is a sore wound for the fishermen. They're mad at me over the boardwalk.
I think
and then they've translated it over to parking.
This statement's important, I think, to Martin County. The mangroves will have to be removed. I'm confident that
they were gone. There were no mangroves 30 years ago. They grew because of apathy.
I'm confident that this is the root of the problem and that mangroves have become more important than the residents. Nobody wants to remove mangroves, but this is typical of the dystopian leftist perspective and that trees have more rights than people.
Yes.
So your solution is to remove the mangroves.
You can't really remove mangroves.
No, it's a state issue, first of all, DP.
But let me finish. You can mitigate mangroves. And so, I'm
never... You can trim them, I think, to 4 feet.
I'm not saying trim. I'm saying you can create a mangrove island that has 100 mangroves for every mangrove that you get rid of. And so, there's no loss. I'm not a big fan of compromise. If you want mangroves, I'll give you 10 mangroves for every one that I need to remove. But don't move a sidewalk in front of my house because you don't want to cut down a tree. I don't think anybody who's living across the street would agree with that. And if you finally agree to let me cut down the tree, let me give you 10. Let me give you 100. Let me give you 1,000 if I need to. But let me cut the tree down.
But I understand what you're saying about trees. But Corey, in this neighborhood, I can just give you my advice working on the water issues for over a decade.
But there's other places we can build mangroves. We can do mitigation, and that's in the code.
But that doesn't help the river there.
Yeah, it does. Actually, mangroves. The problem with the river is the septic tanks. That's been studied and proven. But we haven't done anything about the septic tanks, and so we're going to get mad at me for 1 tree.
No, that's one of the problems.
Let's do the bigger things.
Well, Club Med up in Port St. Lucie, they just removed
the board just canceled
hundreds of feet
the entire
of
Salerno septic project over a little bit of money.
I saw that. They're looking for money because the residents couldn't afford it. That they were levying
$500 a year over 20 years.
But that may not be a lot to you, but it is to a lot of folks.
It's a lot to anybody.
And have you reached out? I have to ask. Let's just hear. Go home, Crowley. We don't want you. Greed is motivation. So if you're mad, why would you intimidate people who live here?
I don't.
You called our community zombies.
I didn't.
Drunks and addicts, too.
I didn't mean to call the drunks that were living on the docks fishermen. I think that's where it got confused. To disparage all fishermen as alcoholics and so forth is obviously wrong. But the docks were, a destination for vagrancy and drug use and alcohol use. I couldn't tell that they weren't fishermen until everybody got upset about things. And so for that, I apologize. But it was, and since then they've cleaned up that area dramatically. Like they've windowed the mangroves. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And so I think a little bit of this, and even the community would agree, the engagement, the beautification, the results of this, what you want to call negativity, have been positive. And that's always what happens. It's like you turn the lemons into lemonade. You don't just keep on banging on. I'm a very reasonable person. I didn't start this thing to make $1 gazillion. I started this thing because I got mad that Port Salerno was slowly going to be lost through apathy.
Well, I think folks are concerned in particular because they don't want to see Port Salerno built into this big multi-family.
Then they should be supporting me, because that is what we're trying to eliminate. Let me tell you something. The county created these plans, so the county is the developer. But when the builders go to say, let me build on my 1 acre lot, they go, there's no sewer, there's no retention. But you don't need the retention in the CRA, because the CRA, Port Salerno is different than most CRAs, because most CRAs were downtowns.
Right.
You know, downtown Stewart, downtown Hope Sound, downtown
Palm City, right.
And so they had the infrastructure, and so it was more about painting buildings and doing things. They just kind of like peanut buttered the whole thing over, and Port Salerno never was a downtown. But they gave us all the same rules of a downtown. Any plans you see from the county from 23 years, this area we're talking about is a downtown, but it never exists. It's a ghost downtown. It never existed. But our rules say we don't need to do anything. So this is what I mean by destroying, is like the builder's going to go in, build, put a pipe out, and the water's going to go where?
Right. Well, I guess, Corey, where I get confused as well.
People need to read the rules.
Well, here, I thought the protest was very well. You're talking about just last weekend.
Yes, I thought it was a great group of people. They spent a lot of money at Basin Seafood. I know Chris very well. He does a shout out to Basin for everybody who's watching this. He has a local catch. Last year he had some relationships, but he's almost transitioned in his business to sell local fish, and he's done a great job with that. You
said if the market fails, your market that you're creating, because of negativity, we'll just build 200 apartments and be on our way.
Yes, that was always that's everybody's plan. Here's my thing. Everybody's plan everywhere you see 3-story apartment buildings on US 1. Everywhere you go, everything you see, go to the building department and get every stack of plans. 3-story apartment buildings. They're all 3-story apartment buildings. So when I say we'll just build our 200 apartments,
but you need the infrastructure.
No,
and
I don't need
anything
anything.
To go with
That's my point. We need less parking. That's the whole argument.
Corey,
that's why
every email you have in here says we need parking.
In order to save the community, that's right. Not for my projects. I can't. If I just wash my hands.
Save the community though. If you're providing parking, that's going to allow something like Senate Bill 102 to come in, because now there's parking to support SB 102. Right now, SB 102, you're not going to be able to build multifamily because you don't have the infrastructure to support it.
Have you read SB 102?
I have.
Do you understand SB 102?
I do.
I've read SB 102 a dozen times, and I still don't understand what qualifies as affordable housing. So, you can read SB 102 as many times as you want, but unless you can sit here and talk about what
in Martin County,
at
about
what
$1,800, it's not affordable at all. It's about $1,800 for 1 bedroom. I think the 2 bedrooms about $2,400.
Here's my point. That is a very difficult subject.
Well, my point is, though,
I don't really quite understand it.
One of the things in Port Salerno that's preventing all this SB 102, yes, it is parking.
No,
there's not parking available. Yes, it is. You can't just go in there and build if you don't have parking available.
Okay, let me educate you and your audience. I just told you the CRA has reduced the parking requirements. I'll give you an example. A restaurant anywhere in the county, you need 1 parking space. Let me finish. For 70 square feet. That means a 2,000 square foot restaurant needs 30 spaces. In the CRA, that same restaurant needs 10 spaces. Okay? Anywhere in the county you want to build a 20-unit apartment building, you need 40 spaces. A couple more for the ADA. In the CRA, you need 10 spaces. My point is, the CRA has already done the parking job for the developers. That's why I'm so upset, because I realize that without coordination, that all you're going to get is, and it's already happening. The CRA is a magnet because of these reduced requirements. And so unless the county gets ahead of the curve and builds parking, which they think that they have, which they don't, then you're going to get every apartment, you need 2.3 spaces. So for a 20-unit apartment, you need 46 spaces. I only need to build 20. 26 go on the street, thinking that you have parking, like in Del Rey or in West Palm, where that they've created parking. In Port Salerno, we don't have parking.
No, you don't.
And so what happens is somebody comes in and builds their building, and then 26 cars are on the street. And then the next person builds their building, and 50 cars are on the street. And it's this cycle, and each builder doesn't know what they're doing. They're just like, these are my requirements, and these are my needs. And it ends up being a destruction.
Corey, they just can't come in and just park in the street.
The builders don't care. That's my point.
No, they're not going to get approved through the
county.
They
are already approved. That's my point.
Just go park on the streets.
Yes.
They have to have parking available, even with SB 102.
No,
they do, Corey.
They don't.
That is part of the approval process.
This is why I got so mad. This is what you think and everybody else thinks.
So why are you?
And it's not true.
If that's the case, why are you asking for parking?
I'm not.
It doesn't make sense. There are
dozens
of email where you say we need more parking, more parking.
Because the only argument that I've had that's been any successful at all with the other builders, for example, there's a project on the corner of Ebtide and Salerno, 12 units on 0.36 acres. He's going to build 12 parking spaces. I meet with him constantly, and he knows very well he's going to put 15 parking spaces on the street. Now, his original project was a little bit larger, But through these conversations,
who's giving him permission to put 15
they're the rules.
spots
They're
on
the
the
rules.
street?
This is so upsetting. The county can do this. This is the rules. That's why I'm saying the people on the street at Basin and arguing don't understand the rules. I'm being victimized for my understanding of the rules, and the parking situation is saying I need the parking. You could not. If I lose, I go and build apartment complexes. I don't need the parking to do that.
No, you won't, because there's not enough parking available for your...
Listen to me.
You won't.
I don't need the parking. I'm telling you, that's the rules. Read the CRA code. I don't need the parking. No builder does. Otherwise, we wouldn't buy the land because we don't trust the county to build parking.
Then why are you asking for it?
Why would I spend the money on the land?
I have email after email that you said parking.
Because I'm trying to save things, not destroy things.
But
Parking
giving
is
that
the only way to
parking
save
is
things.
what's going to allow SBO 102 to also
No,
develop
you're
commercial
wrong.
properties into multifamily. You have to, Corey.
You're wrong.
Look, SBO 102, I have
Casey, I understand
verbatim,
this
but
topic more than you
here,
do.
no, I don't think so. Multifamily project must satisfy the county's land development regulations
Yes.
for multifamily developments, including regulations related to setbacks and parking,
Yes.
provided it satisfies these requirements and is otherwise consistent with the comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan doesn't offer parking on public roads.
That's my point.
So we agree.
No.
It does not
you know more
offer
about it.
parking on
How many
comprehensive plan.
parking? How much parking does a restaurant need square footage? I told you earlier.
You
In the
did.
county.
You did. I don't remember what you said.
Right, but
one
you
and a
said you know
half.
better than I did. In the
No,
county.
I understand SB 102.
I know, but
it
you're
needs
talking about
parking to
parking.
build 200. You're threatening residents in Port
You're saying
Salerno
you
with a
understand parking.
200 unit apartment building. You can't do that. You don't have the parking for it.
I think I'm not certain what the difficulty is here. I don't need parking.
Because you keep asking for it in the emails. I don't understand.
Maybe
why
ask
you
me
keep
why I
asking.
keep asking for it then.
Why do you keep asking for parking if you don't need parking?
I don't need parking for my project. I need parking in order to make Port Salerno into a mixed-use development. That's my point. And I've worked with the other developers. I don't need the other developers to build my own property. Why would I talk to my neighbor? I don't need their support. I don't need Commissioner Hurd's support. I don't need to do anything I want to do to build an apartment complex. This isn't about me building an apartment complex.
But you have to adhere to our comp
I
plan
know.
for parking
Yes,
regulations.
which are reduced
Your
in the
property,
CRAs.
Even at 1-to-1, 200 unit building that you're saying in your
I didn't say
text
I
you
would
put
build
out.
on my 1.25 acres. What I'm saying is if I lose this battle, we all build on our properties because we all are watching. All of the builders are with me watching saying, if he can't win this battle and get a parking for us, then all of the plans will be apartments. And that some will be 200.
But Corey, they don't have parking for those apartments. That's why
They
I
wouldn't
don't
have paid for
understand
it.
why you're saying
They
that.
don't need the county. They don't listen. You don't need the commissioner. You don't need anybody. You don't need SB 102. All you need to do is go to an architect and build the building, and you're done. We understand the code. It's already done. I don't need anything. That's why I'm fighting because I can't lose.
It doesn't work like that. Corey, it doesn't.
Let's see.
We will. You cannot build that kind of
I think if
density
people
without
would read
the
the rules-
infrastructure to support it.
I think if people would read the rules, they would understand that you can.
I think that somebody does need to read the rules.
I think so. And that's what I hope the community does.
Well, I have to say,
I've read the rules. I wouldn't spend as much money as I did if I didn't read the rules. If you think I'm sitting here saying, I don't understand what I'm talking about, I'm invested. And I talk to other people who are invested millions of dollars. They understand the rules. For people who, wave a few signs and think that they understand the rules, no, they don't. That's what this fight is about. It's about people who understand and are trying to save things versus a bunch of people who don't understand and think they know.
so Corey, I'm going to say, I've talked to a lot of people about you before you came in today, and a lot of them said they liked your passion, they liked your energy, but you disregarded what the locals wanted. You didn't get their support, and you've come in and it's kind of almost like you're bullying your way through it.
Maybe.
And it's turned the other way.
Maybe.
It's
No,
turned
it
the
has-
other
it's-
way. The locals are...
Maybe. But
Corey's
they're always
too
that
much.
way. In Jupiter, it was the same way. Every community has been the same way.
So you haven't developed a different community. Why not just focus on your personal properties then? If you're able to develop whatever you want, why not just focus on
I
your
don't want to build
own
apartments. That's why I bought them. I don't want to do that. That's the whole point. I'm having a hard time understanding what's difficult to understand. So this passion, here's my point. Everybody I talk to, everybody who understands what I'm talking about agrees with my vision, including Commissioner Hurd, who everybody told me I could never get her support. She's a very tough person. She cares deeply about the community and the environment. Getting her to agree to anything, even especially spending money, is not a simple task. My point is anybody who I've had time to talk to understands and agrees with my vision. What everybody who doesn't like is my approach. And here's the thing. I just don't have the time for it. I don't have the patience for it. I'm not going to wait 10 years for the county to do the right thing. You guys have had 23 years to do the right thing. You haven't done it. So we're either going to do this or not.
Well, I think you need to really involve the locals in Port Salerno.
They
and get
are
them
involved.
to buy on.
They
well,
are
they
involved.
are, but not in the way you want them to. Corey, you're very popular, just not in a good sense down there.
You'd be surprised how much people out there support my vision.
We're going to have to go in 2 minutes, but we'll keep rolling a little bit if we have to beyond that, and we'll tie it up. So for WSTU listeners, we're going to keep going on Facebook here a couple minutes just to wrap this up. Corey, I want to say, with the parking, with SBO 102, I keep going back to that. Because you've thrown with SBO 102, we're going to have apartments everywhere. You still have to adhere to those parking regulations. So if the CRA, 200 units is going to need 200 parking spaces.
It'll
That's
need
what you
200
just
units. Will need 200 parking spaces, which
don't have room for
we can provide on our properties. We've already done the drawings. It's already. I mean, don't tell me we don't have room for it. Okay, we've already paid the architects to do it. It's already drawn up.
How big is the property?
My property is 1.25 acres, but when you include all of our properties, it's 15 acres.
So you're getting together with all the different developments, and all of you are going to build one apartment building and split it up.
No, we're waiting to see if we can get.
Just curious.
We're waiting to see if we can do the right thing, and we're working hard. And the other people are watching to see if I'm going to get chewed up in this fight, or if we're going to be able to do interesting things like open markets, or lower impact developments. But if we can't do the right thing, then they're all going to do what they've always done: just build big buildings. The only reason they're not doing that is because of me being out here getting beaten up.
So one of the locals, your vision isn't our vision.
It is their vision, actually. Read the 23-year-old CRA plan. It is their vision. They're the ones that created it. They're the ones that voted on it. If you thought I could come in here and bully people around to create a vision, that's craziness. I just saw a vision that was being unused, and I picked it up and ran with it. But when they read it, it is actually their vision.
Well, for Port Salerno, I think they need to really keep an eye.
Go to the meetings.
Go to the meetings.
Yeah,
Keep
how
an
about
eye. Thank you very much, WSTU AM 1450 listeners. This is the show with Corey Crowley, Salerno Development Authority, which we didn't get into that.
That's when I talk about organization. That's what that organization is intended to do, is to organize the investors. Listen, this isn't so new for even the investors. The investors have never been approached.
Who are the investors?
Other builders, other people with money, and there's a lot of people on the sidelines that are waiting to see how this pans out, to see if they want to, buy more. I've been approached by hedge funds. The thing is, this type of protest and so forth is, this is what progress sounds like. When someone drives by in their fancy car and they see people protesting, the first thing they do is start driving around and see how much real estate costs.
Corey, I remember Knight Kiplinger. You know Knight Kiplinger, right? And he's got Newfield, which was Pineland Prairie before that. He went around and got the community support around the county. Spent months
probably needed
showing
the code
everybody.
changed.
So,
right?
What's that?
Probably needed the code changed, which we don't.
Actually, he did, but he got the support.
Well, I don't need the support. I don't need the code change. That's my point.
Well,
so I can handle this a little bit more roughly.
You're asking for more. Well, why would you do that to the community?
Because they were sleeping. The same thing with my son on the couch. They wouldn't get off the couch and playing video games.
Corey, you see how it looks like the people have been here for generations. You come in from Jupiter. I think you started buying property about 2017. Well, you're not a local.
Who cares about that? I'm an American.
But you're coming in and telling, I'm just going to do it.
Who cares?
Because I can.
It's America.
They do. This is their home.
Well, they were going to lose it because they were asleep, and they should be thankful that they're not sleeping anymore. And now they have a chance of losing it.
They're not going to lose anything. See, that's the threats that
they were. Trust me, these little blue houses were going to go everywhere. You'd wake up one day, and all these beautiful plans for having a grocery store or a place you can go out with your family, get an ice cream, that everybody wants. All the moms in the world. The kids are what keeps things beautiful, and the moms are home and they're pulling their hair out. There's nothing to do in Martin County. There's no, the price of rent's high. God forbid the single moms.
They are.
So, and here I am coming along trying to make places to go and build affordable housing, and I'm getting eviscerated for it. Why? Because I said a few things that were rough. Well, you were having here I am on the news, and maybe we can make some progress out of this.
There's the question. You said, I'm going to build affordable housing. What is affordable?
Well, I told you, smaller. The only way to make affordable housing work in any city in the world, Hong Kong, you live in a room that's not even this big. That's what happens. And unfortunately, it happened in Florida, and I didn't create that. That was COVID and inflation. But here we are. First time in our history we have an affordability crisis, and the senators go forward and pass SB 102 in order to address it. And then we lose control locally over what we can do with our communities, and then people like me come in and make it public, and then this is what happens.
SB 102 is making it that commercial properties can now build multi-family apartment buildings on them, as long as a percentage of them is affordable. Which folks,
it's hard to even understand what that means, right?
Corey, yes, you and I both agree that affordable is really not affordable. However, but that's what SB 102 did. But it did not negate the building height. within a mile, anything within a mile.
Well, it did negate. It gave it how I say it reduced. It said that you might have a limit, but if there's something bigger and a mile away, you can eliminate that limit.
Within a mile, but there isn't where Port Salerno is, so you're okay.
I don't need SB 102. SB 102 is just a fugazi. It's something that scares people, but we don't need it. The CRA is more powerful. The CRA zoning is more powerful than anything SB 102 could ever give us.
I appreciate you saying that, because you were on WPTV Channel 5 using SB 102 as a scare tactic. You were.
I said I don't use it as leverage, but I can understand that other people do.
But fear is a good thing to get things done, and that's not a direct quote, but that's in essence what you said with that.
I'm not the only person in the world that would agree to that.
Well, I know, but don't you want to work with Port Salerno people? Don't you want them to
I'm going to. Once
you?
the anger subsides, and people call me on my phone, and we have meetings like this, and we talk, and I can have an opportunity to explain my vision instead of, trying to snipe me with a few misstatements in order to, pander to the fishermen.
Well, there's not a few mistakes. I mean, you had a couple hundred emails in the county commission.
I'm very passionate about it.
So if you can go to Martin BOCC emails,
I invite everyone. I'll download them and send them to people myself.
They're all there. I mean,
I'm thankful that people are reading my emails because I write them with care and with passion.
My concern was the parking issue, because if all of a sudden the county starts putting in all this parking, then SB 102 will come into play, because there is parking available. It's the exact
opposite. If they don't build the parking, you keep saying it isn't, like you actually know what I'm a person. I didn't buy all these properties and then come to your thing and then try to lie to you about that. Just listen to what I'm saying. It's the opposite. If parking is not built, then you will get apartments. However, if parking is built, why would that be true? Let's play that out. So the downstairs you have businesses, and upstairs you have like 12 apartments. So you need 12 parking spaces for those 12 apartments in the CRA. But for the businesses, you need 50 or 60 because you want people to come and go to the businesses in order for them to be successful. Well, it's much easier to just put 12 more apartments downstairs. You'll make more money more consistently. Rental revenues are much more consistent than commercial revenues. Commercial revenues depend on your neighbors and what they do and millions of different things. The commercial, and you have Amazon and all these other things. Nobody's building commercial anymore for a huge amount of reasons.
I was going to say, who was planning on putting commercial in there?
We're trying to, so have people can go for an ice cream and rent a bicycle. But the only way to have commercial is to have sufficient parking. But no builder in their straight mind would ever do that and take that risk. When they build a building and now they're required to put 60 or 70 unit parking spaces, no, we're just going to build. That's my point. The math of this whole thing is just apartments. And I'm trying to say, I understand this enough to raise the red flag. And it's an emergency.
Corey, I think you need to look at the density of the land and look at the comp plan in Port Salerno, because like you said, one parking space for apartment. That doesn't mean you get to build all the apartments. You have to have room on your land for that one space.
I know, yeah, but my point is, if I built that same project someplace else, I would need 2 spaces. That's my point.
Okay.
But that's the difference.
But it's still, there's not enough parking available there.
You keep saying that like you know, but you don't. I'm telling you, there's enough parking. I've already drawn it out. I can send you the plans if you want.
Well, you just said you had to combine a bunch of other people's property
No, I can
together.
build 46 on my 1.25 acres. Another 12. I can build 200 on the 4.5 acres that I own personally. But when you combine the other people and we have 15 acres, then we can, 200 is not even this, I'm talking 1,500 apartments that are inevitably going to be built because the zoning already exists. The reason for this is to create parking so that we can get a mixed-use environment so that people can, walk, go places.
But if the parking's already there, why do you need more?
There's no parking there. That's my point. There's no parking there. Port Salerno's had a parking problem for 30 years. And we've been trying to solve it for 30 years, and all of a sudden now it's like no parking. And, I'm not going to get into why it's no parking, but there's special interests involved in this, about why this is an issue. Okay, you talk to anybody on the waterfront, I want more parking. And all of a sudden, now we're talking about no parking? It's craziness. Parking has been an issue for Port Salerno since Port Salerno was created, and we're trying to solve it. And it's being associated with this, if you give us parking, you're going to destroy it. It's the opposite. This is bizarro world.
So he doesn't want to build apartments, but he's planning smaller, affordable housing. That's another comment. If you build 200 apartments, you need 200 spaces on your land, and that's my point as well. If you have a 200 building.
I didn't say 200 apartments that I would build, and I said we would build.
Okay, you may have said we. I don't know who we is.
I know, that's exactly right. That's what this whole point. And it's not just the 200 we will build. It's go down to the building department and see the stack of building permits. The district table project, nobody knows about. The Cove Road Apartments has 46 units. There are district table, for example. They're going to build, I think, 18 units there. You know, there's somebody else out front. His neighbor has a sign, no Crowley, and he's not even aware that right across the street he's going to have a parking problem. I'm not, going to go complain to the high Zangas. Good luck with that.
Well, I mean, if you don't adhere to the comp plan and the zoning regulations on parking, you're not going to build anything.
I wouldn't be fighting if I needed to get anybody's permission. I know the rules well enough that I'm allowed to throw some shell bullets. I think the way I'm approaching this should make you ask, why would somebody want to fight and then go ask the commissioners for help? That doesn't make any sense, does it?
My first question to you is
I'm fighting to get people awake.
Who is Corey Crowley, and have you done this before?
Fought with people many times.
So, well, you haven't built out a development before, so why are you so
We're not
confident
doing any building,
this is the way we need to go?
This is about a fight first. We can worry about my skills with development, which can be bought, by the way, later. But we have to win this battle first.
Well, Corey Crowley, I appreciate you coming in today. It's been a tense conversation, and people are very upset. They're upset the way you treated the fishermen.
I didn't treat the fishermen badly. I treated the drunks at the docks, who I mistook as fishermen at first, but realized later that they weren't. And I do apologize to the fishermen for that mistake. But they have since cleaned the docks up, and there are no more. It's much, much better. But I didn't mean to disparage fishermen as a class of people. I deeply apologize for that. And that type of hurt feelings is preventing the community from getting together because they're waiting for me to apologize, waiting for me to genuflect. And I do. I've misspoken. Anybody who has passion, there's going to be a landmine of miswords and misdeeds. I'm full of that. But the general idea, when you say more good things than bad, let's just get to that point.
And lastly, just because it's a personal thing, don't cut the mangroves down. Honest to goodness, it sounds like a small thing. It's huge to our river.
To think that I have any power to cut the mangroves down. I talked to my neighbor, and she works for a tree company, and she lost her mind. And so what happens is, I have a position, and I say it, and then I get beaten up, and I go, well, maybe I was a little bit... maybe I didn't consider people's feelings enough about that.
Well, it's understanding the community.
Well, I'm learning by saying stupid things.
Well, so step back.
Well, I just don't have the time. I have the patience. Like I said, I didn't start all this to sit around and wait for the county to do the right thing for 10 years. I'm doing it, or we're not. This is it.
I think the community wants to have input and be involved, and
I want them to
they want to care about the vision that's created for their community.
I want that too.
They feel like you're just coming in, and it's Corey's vision, and Corey's going to do it.
It's the county's vision. Have them read the plan. All of this has been planned for 23 years.
Well, the county hasn't presented this. Corey
They have.
Corey's presented,
somebody has to make it real.
The Columbia pictures in your group, or that was Corey's
Somebody has
vision.
to make it real. But the county has all these. The county runs to this point and stops and says, okay, and it's kind of like a store window, and they're waiting for the builders and developers to shop and say, okay, I like these plans. And then there's some incentives. We look at those and say, oh, not really. We look at the parking, and that's not really that great. And then we're like, okay, we buy. Why did I buy? I didn't buy to go build. I bought because I realized if I didn't build, it was going to be destroyed.
All right.
Do you think I have the time and the interest, or this is somehow fun and no?
I don't think it's fun, but clearly you have the time and interest.
I am going to see this to the end, regardless of the complaints, and I'm hoping that the complaints will drive people to the library or to online and read the code, and when they do, then we can have, a conversation, and then that'll be the beginning of amazing things. But there was nobody to talk about when I first got here and did this. As many people as I talked to, I found a very, very, very few people who were engaged on a daily basis, who understood the politics, who understood the code. It's a very rare group of people.
Well, Corey, I can tell you with developers, if it can be done, they would be doing it, especially in this past few years
I'm not a developer.
Multifamily went all over. Well,
I'm a problem solver.
You're saying they can just build down there. There's a reason why they haven't built.
Because I'm
parking, infrastructure.
No,
they can't make
the reason
the
they haven't
there.
built is because I've organized them, and I've talked to the county. We've met with the staff, and I've had them delay their plans, which are some of them have already paid for architectural drawings, and we're going to win.
They're pretty upset as high as interest rates have went.
They're very interested in this because if we can do this here, we can do this other places. We can help. This is happening everywhere all over Martin County. Ed Campy, for example, 2 BCC meetings ago, proposed that the county spend $4 million to buy a 6-acre piece of property in Palm City that the residents don't want to be built into an apartment complex. What is the county going to do? Buy every single property? They don't have the money. It would cost $4 billion to buy all the sensitive pieces of property that the people in Palm City, and the people in Jensen, the people in, so you can't change the rules. SB 102, tied everybody's hands. So the only possible way is for the county, the people, the builders to have a dialogue. which never existed before because the builders would just buy this. They go to the shop and they say, these are the rules and everything else. And they would buy it and they would build it. No commission involvement, no county. You didn't get letters when somebody was building something.
Corey,
it just
you
got
do.
built.
That's part of the regulations. You have to let everybody know around a property that you're developing. They have to be mailed out.
And then what?
There's
You mail
in
it.
the public.
It doesn't matter.
Have meetings.
It doesn't matter.
It does. It does.
If it mattered, people would never buy anything because there would always be a risk that they would get denied. The reason we have the rules in place is so that we know what we can do, so we don't mind spending more money for things.
Well, oftentimes
There's
they buy
risk.
something based on approval, so they won't buy it till they have approvals.
I know, but the CRA is already pre-approved, packaged, all ready to go. That's to your point. Your typical idea of understanding development is somebody buys a farm and needs to go through a zoning change. The county already did that for the CRA. These are just little individual pieces that are already packed and ready to go, with the assumption that there's an underlying infrastructure, what there isn't. That's what this is about. Is that the county acted as a developer, screwed up, and people were taking advantage of it. And I recognized that and bought everything I could, waiting for us to have this conversation. But the county screwed up. They created the rules to incentivize, but they didn't police it.
So what you just said and what I just heard, and the county created the rules, but there isn't infrastructure to support it. The
county created the rules, but when I mean infrastructure, I don't mean parking. I mean water and sewer. Water's a great example. Retention, not just water for your house, but retention. We have limited retention requirements on our properties, which means that normally where you have a 1 acre property, you might need 1/3 of an acre of retention. We don't need that in a downtown environment. Why would you want to have a retention pond in the middle of a downtown? So they said that doesn't make any sense. So they got rid of it and they said you need to put a pipe, with the assumption that that pipe would go someplace, which it doesn't right now. So I could build my 46 units on my property and put a pipe saying, okay, and the county will have to spend millions of dollars in order to adopt a retention because that's how the code is written. Anywhere else in the county, you would have to manage your own retention.
Or the county says you don't have sufficient infrastructure to build this, so no, Mr. Crowley, we can't allow you to build this.
That's not how it works.
The infrastructure's not there. It is how it works.
No.
It is how it works.
We'll see.
Okay. All right. Corey Crowley, appreciate you coming in, answering questions. There's a ton of comments here on Facebook. I'll let you read up because they're not real positive.
Yeah, I mean, it's been that way for the whole time. And it's, even my other investors and other people have said, hey, Corey, are you certain that this, type of publicity is really serving you? And my point to them was like, if I just wanted to build, then I wouldn't be here at all. The point of this is I'm trying to, and the reason the commissioner heard, I think, and I can't speak for her, is listening at least. I wouldn't even go as far as say support, is because we're proposing something new. It's called proactive development. Is that, like the ranchettes, for example. Like let's look at out west as a perfect example. You have a 20-acre minimum building, but if you make it into 5, then maybe you can build some nice homes. And then what ends up happening is instead of it being vacant, that can be destroyed at some time in the future. God forbid the commission changes, or God forbid the rules change, and then people can build strip malls. You proactively develop into something that's going to be worth too much in order to develop into something else. So you actually look at all your properties and say, okay, we've been trying to stop it, we've been trying to stop it, we've been trying to stop it. We can't. Now let's go get the least worst case scenario and do that. Ranchettes and downtowns, and so all the land that you don't want to become 3-story apartments, you go and you actually make it easy, because Martin County has never made it easy. Martin County has always made it very difficult, which is why we have to go for highest and best, because it's so expensive to hire civil engineers and architects and to build what? To build an open market? I mean, that's crazy. So once you start going through the process, some of these builders have been in the process for 2 years, and they're going to price that in by building to the highest density that they possibly can. If they would release their hand off of our necks, we can have a conversation and a dialogue with the community, with the county, with the builders, and say, okay, well, that conversation isn't happening. There's not another me on the government side that I can go to and say, let's make a deal.
No,
you know what I mean?
No,
There's a me on the investor side because I've organized everybody. But who do I go to on the county side? Commissioner Hurd? The commissioners don't have as much power as people think. The county administration, they have to listen to 3 out of 5 commissioners, and they're always changing. It's been very difficult for us to have any impact at all on the staff level. These protests have actually helped a lot, because what happens is people at the county say, what are they protesting about? They go and read the code, and then they go, wow, Corey actually, makes a lot of sense. The people who understand the code always come to that conclusion. So if you're protesting, it's because you haven't read the details.
So county staff has read the code now, and they're going to be
They know the code.
supportive.
They wrote the code. They understand. I can go there and talk to them about this problem. I can talk to growth management, engineering, and they all will sit there and go, yeah, okay. But they can't fix it because they're government. And they never expected somebody from the building side to fix it, because why? They were making too much money building apartments. But I decided to say, okay, well, I can step in and act as this intermediary, and I have had some success at that. But I need somebody on the county side to be able to make a deal. Now, again, this protest did actually help that.
It helped it. All right, we're going to see how. I don't understand how the protest
I know
helped,
nobody understands how. But like I said, you asked me before if I was a developer. No, but I have been in many problems in my life, and this is not the biggest. And I want everybody who is supporting my vision to just trust me that I'll navigate this process.
Well, my wish for you is that you reach out to the folks at Port Salerno that are protesting you and find out
I leave my
why.
phone number on every post, but nobody calls me, and they just prefer to do the social media keyboard thing. But nobody's reached out and actually tried to learn anything. Not
I
one
think
single
they try.
person.
I mean, I've
Nobody's
seen your
tried.
post where you're saying,
Nobody's
I'm just
tried.
going to build apartments on
Well,
it.
you say that. You pick one or two things. I've said a lot of things. I try to be as positive as possible. You know, I've only engaged that group when they ask questions. You know, I don't try to dispute any.
1,000 people sign a petition against you, Corey.
Yeah, but I don't have any
in Port
power.
Salerno.
I don't have any power. I'm not. Who am I? I'm just some guy walking down the street with sandals on and a black T-shirt. But I'm not anybody interesting. I don't have power. They should go to the commission meetings and raise a fuss. You know.
They will. People will get engaged.
Okay, that's when it starts to work.
People engaged.
That's when it starts to work.
So okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of shadiness going on. Trust me, a lot of back. And at first I thought it was nefariousness, and I thought it was, you know, when you look at the government, you think it's like corrupt and so forth. But it just turned out to be ineptness, and you know, just people that, you know, apathy, people not being awake. And I think I can solve a lot of this problem just by educating people and by getting them inspired. You know, we're moving at such an accelerated pace. The amount of accomplishment that we've achieved in the past year with our NAC in terms of having accurate budgets and, you know, streamlining our projects, it's phenomenal. And we're just getting started. You know, this is much bigger than just my project. Martin County has a gap, as I said, between the taxpayers don't want to spend more money on taxes, but they want more services and they want more affordable housing. And so that has to come to head at some point. And your pocketbook's always going to solve that problem for you. You know, if you don't take care of your business will take care of you. And so people are going to say, you know, we don't want more traffic, but damn, I can't pay $3,000 a month for a studio. And so eventually they're going to, you know, and there's an inevitability to this. That's why the smoke and the anger and so forth. All I say is come to the meetings, read the code, like get engaged. Every single person who is out there arguing, it's all emotion. It's all they think I'm, you know, the bad guy. But I guarantee none of them have read it, because if they did, we'd be on the same side.
Well, folks, that really sums it up right there. Get engaged. That's what you can do, and you are doing it right now. Corey Crowley, I do appreciate you coming in and talking about this. It's a very intense issue right now in Port Salerno, and we want Port Salerno to be the people's community that it always has been.
Yes, we do.
So that's what's important. And
it is.
Corey,
that's what I'm fighting for.
Well, they don't think you are. So
that has nothing to do with it. I don't, and that's up to them. People get to think what they want. But I'm telling you, I'm fighting for it. And the people who understand the rules and understand the mathematics of this, understand that I wouldn't be doing any of this. There's a lot of illogic to even me fighting or being on the news when you need people's support. I mean, you know, you guys have to think about this for a second. Like, I wouldn't be here fighting if I didn't care about it.
Well, people very much care about their community.
Great.
So
well, then I'm their biggest advocate. Then
they're definitely not seeing it that way. I
well,
have
they
to
will.
be honest with you.
Yeah, they will. They will. I guarantee they will, because there's no way around it.
We will see. We will see.
Oh, well, get your popcorn. Watch the show.
That's right. I politely disagree, but
we've had a few disagreements, but we'll have more.
Okay, Corey.
We'll get you straightened out.
Oh, I don't know about who's getting straightened out, but I appreciate you coming on here today. Thank you, folks, for tuning in. We'll be back.